Hello, neighbors. This is Chris Salata with Behind Ears Podcast, and I also own over at Saratoga Springs, and you're listening to My DVC Points.
Parents and the children could have fun together.
Please board quickly and safely. Our monorail will be departing momentarily.
Welcome to the My DVC Points podcast. Join the conversation as DVC members share their stories, personal preferences, and magical memories. Your reservation is confirmed, your fast passes are booked. Pull up on the yellow strap because our journey into the magic of membership is about to begin.
To infinity and beyond.
Now, here's your host and curator of magical stories, Chad Pennycuff.
Welcome home, neighbors, to episode 272 of the My DVC Points podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at dvcrentalstore.com. They are running some phenomenal deals here, like the 25 days of Christmas. I just saw some deals pop up for them for $50 off your price whenever you put in to rent some points. Check them out because they've got member deals going on as well this whole month of December. They're offering like extra point bonuses, all kinds of awesome promotions over there. DVC Rental Store, their core business is they take members with excess points and match them up with people who want to go to Disney. We can make that match and save the people going to Disney 40% off Disney rack rates. So the savings are real for the renters, and it also helps members out because it'll turn your excess points into cash you can use to pay for your dues. It's December, due statements are coming. If you need a little bit of cash to make those dues payments, call up our friends over at DVC Rental Store. Let them know you heard about them here on the My DVC Points podcast. DVC Rental Store, they help members, they help renters, and it's a beautiful thing when it all comes together. Speaking of beautiful things coming together, in today's show, I'm bringing in Roxanne to co-host an episode with me because, Roxanne, we found a really unique guest that we thought our audience would want to hear from. So why don't you introduce our guest, Roxanne, and tell us a little bit about the backstory here.
Yeah. Hey, Chad. Thanks for having me today. So we are talking to Brent Hopper, and the name is very fitting because Brent is an airline pilot, and he and his family, we're going to shortly hear, went to 12 parks in 12 days. So basically, he is the ultimate park hopper.
I was going to say, that's some serious hopping, and Brent, with a name like that and a track record like that, welcome to the My DVC Points community. We're glad to have you with the show, and we want to hear a little bit more about your Disney background and how we got into this 12-park journey.
Thanks for having me, guys. I mean, for one, I've always, as my wife would say, that I do crazy adventures sometimes. I don't know if it's a memory of a squirrel sometimes or attention span kind of thing. But for the most part, I worked at Disney as a cast member when I first moved down to Orlando while I was flight instructing. I've always come to Disney as a kid, so it's kind of Disney, kind of fun activities. I got married at Disney, annual pass, my kids, we've all kind of done the Disney fun stuff. We've gone around the world, done all Disney parks before we did this little adventure. So it started out that way. Once I was an airline pilot, I was like, oh, it'd be kind of cool to go do every park around the world and sort of create it as an amazing race kind of style with the whole people that do the parkology stuff, doing every ride in every park. And then with COVID happened and everything, and then someone, his name was Nathan Firesheets, I saw he got national coverage of being able to do it in 12 parks, 12 days. And I go, well, wow, it's okay. The idea is doable, as crazy as it sounds. And then thinking oh man, I could probably, with my job and its perks, I could do it faster. And then I had it'd be kind of a fun spin to do it with raising funds for Give Kids the World, being a local charity here in Orlando. So,
did you do it as a fundraiser for them?
Yes, yeah. We raised around a little over $4,000. And then I was surprised, just like anything, just starting it, and people just kind of jumped on and kind of cheered me along the way. So it wasn't just an echo chamber of me and my kids trying to push them along from the start in Paris to finishing back in Orlando.
Okay. So walk us through this path then. So you're a pilot, and you mentioned you'd been to all the parks before. That had to help quite a bit, because I couldn't imagine taking up this challenge and then having to learn all of the airports and learn all of the parks and learn everything else. That'd be a little bit much to me. I mean, I can handle Disneyland and I can handle here in Orlando, no problem, right? Because I've been there. But the other parks,
So it's like I've been to them like not all at once. Like about 5 years ago, I took our kids to Asia for a month as one of our yearly crazy adventures we like to do for our family and kind of get the lay of the land of each park. We did Hong Kong, we did Tokyo Disney Resort, and Shanghai. So you kind of got our feet wet, kind of that. And I've been to Paris when I was in college, so kind of knew how the layout would possibly be or how to approach things a little bit. And then with my flying wise, I just treat it like a choose your own adventure since we kind of like the old books. And since we've like standby, it's all about picking the right flights, make sure the loads are good. Because again, you're flying standby. So if there's not seats open, you'd have to choose plan B, plan C, or whatever you need to do. There was a little of that in the adventure. So I'm having to adjust.
I think that's an airline employee benefit, right? That you can fly on other people's airlines when there's open seats through like an employee card.
Yes. Yeah, so we basically can look on a line and we basically are paying the taxes. Depending on the airline has different procedures, but for the most part, we can buy the ticket, standby, and then just kind of go from there. Yeah, like I said, it's a choose your own adventure / survivor / amazing race kind of style. You can see the people's lost souls debating as you're waiting at the gate. It's like, okay, am I going to get on? Am I going to get on? And then it's Price is Right when they call your name and you're like, yay, I made it.
I could see that being an awesome vlog, right? It's like I could see a vlogger partnering up with an airline employee and going, "Hey, let's do this amazing race style." And
that's
cool. Yeah, and then it's like you see people where it's either you're crushed because you've been at the airport and you haven't made like 3 flights in a row to destination A, and you're like, all right, we got to figure out a way to one get around it or go this stop to this stop. It can either work out amazing, or it can be the biggest utter failure and soul-crushing event that you could possibly do. So
wow, that takes guts. And who all went with you? Was it you have a son and a daughter, and how old are they?
Yeah, so my 2 oldest. So I took my son Tanner, who's 14, and my daughter Peyton, who's 12. I asked them if they want to do it, and they signed themselves up. And then afterwards, about halfway through, I'd use Chipotle as a way to get my daughter to kind of keep going as we're midway through into Asia. I'm like, okay, once we get to LA, you can have Chipotle. She's like, oh, yes. So there's a little motivational kind of things that put on the way.
Wow, walk a marathon
Chipotle,
a day.
That's all it took?
I mean,
my kids would have been holding out for a whole lot more than a burrito bowl. Is all I'm saying here.
Chad, we got to get this guy's strategy here. What are we doing wrong with our kids?
They would have been blackmailing me for God knows what, but anything but a burrito bowl, right?
She loves her Chipotle bowls.
Awesome.
Well, I'm right there with her, man. It hashtag food motivated, okay? Like, but still, like, okay, yeah. So you started off in Paris then?
Yeah, so we kind of was playing it out. I thought of different scenarios, like which would be the easiest. Started Disney World in Orlando or even California, which direction I wanted to go around the world. And I figured it out like, all right, Paris would be the easiest because you could just kind of move east. So you're gaining time, especially when you go from the Asia to California because you have the date line. So then it's like, all right, Paris, let's just get that out of the way. We'll start there and then just head to either Shanghai or Hong Kong, depending on how the loads looked, and just kind of went right from there. But we started and it's like, all right, we'll start on this day. I used the various resources online, the crowd calendars. And it's like, okay, October 1st would be great to start, or October 2nd. We got into Paris and we were ready to go. And it was the first day, it kind of started off with tripping ourselves because for whatever reason, the Halloween events in Paris caused the crowds to be extra high, especially with the Rugby World Cup. And then, it just started not well. So trying to do that, we were having fun. That's the whole thing was with my kids trying to do it. And then we were not able to finish 7 of the rides. So it didn't start out well, but we had kind of like, all right, we're on the adventure. Let's keep moving. And we went to Shanghai from there. And it's kind of the adventure continued.
That's amazing to me that you we'll see where we can get the better flights to Shanghai or Hong Kong. And you just kind of played it by ear from there. Did you have to do layover flights on Paris, or were you able to get a direct flight?
Oh, they were all direct flights. So it's like, I kind of all right, Air France was wide open. I was like, okay, this is our opportunity. We got it. Yes, we're not going to be able to finish all the rides. If we stay an extra night to finish it, it's going to go downhill even more. It's with loads or whatever. So, because some places, the load might not be good that night or might be good that day. And you have to go okay, it was more of a sacrifice versus what Nathan did it. He had booked tickets and he was able to kind of plan it out more detailed. I kind of was doing it, see the pants, kind of going more torturing myself through the process with the stress of wrangling, of herding cats with my two kids, and then trying to complete this. Going, all right, we got to do this. We're only on day one. All right, let's keep going. So
I just think it's amazing that you did this with your two kids. Like, I would love the opportunity to do this with 2 out of my 3 kids. One of them, not big Disney fan yet. Like it's, I don't know if we'll ever fully get her on board. I could take 2 of my kids and pull this off.
Right.
And I just look at this like, man, this had to be an epic family adventure as well.
Mm-hmm. The strategy and the flexibility. Wow.
We're trying to, it's the joke strategery. And we went through it and you're just kind of, I mean, they don't have, my kids, you want to make them be cheerful through the whole way and going, all right, don't feel down. I know this is a crazy adventure. I know you want to do this ride again, but we're kind of running out of time. And it's like big picture, we're trying to raise money for Give Kids in the World. And there's motivation. I know it is a crazy dad adventure, what we're doing. And yeah, everyone had their moments along the way, depending on when it was, where they just saw it to be like, I don't want to be around you anymore. You're driving me crazy. Just like how when I was a cast member, you watched like in the summertime, you watch families implode. Now you're seeing it kind of in the mirror. I mean, it happens, whatever.
Exhaustion.
It's like
I mean,
you do the whole park and then you're like, okay, we got to get to the airport. We got to catch a flight. It's like 12 to 13 hours. I'm sorry. What do you need for help? What do you need? Okay. You want some more water? I'll get you. What do you need? Chips? What do you need?
Yeah, I guess at the same time, though, you're like, but I'm an airline pilot and we can come back and we can come back when we're not doing this amazing race thing. And you can ride the rides and we'll spend 2 or 3 days here if that's what you want to do. Like,
yeah. There's times where if like even I have Paris overnights and I kind of be like, God, I could get an annual pass here. And he goes, hey guys, you want to go over to Paris this weekend? Or I'm on an overnight. I can double up trips and you want to stay a couple days and I'll meet you back when I come back. Or, I mean, it's the crazy lifestyle that we can do as airline employees. And it's kind of with this, it's talking with Nathan when he did it and asking for tips or little tricks that he did and going, oh, see, I can do it a little differently. But at the same time, it's like he didn't need the stress of like worrying that if he's going to make the flight or not. He had other stresses, but it's kind of an interesting seeing him do it, learning from his tricks and trying to improve on it. And there was a point even where when we were missed out on the 7 rides that we couldn't do in the both parks in Paris, my crazy thoughts of, well, let's see, once I get back to Disney and we're on time, I could actually jump on another flight and if my kids don't want to do it, leave them at home and then fly back to Paris and finish those 7 rides and be completed if those were the last rides to complete the thing. Now, be able to compare notes from Nathan, who did it with paid tickets. He had a set schedule where mine was kind of on the flow, choose your own adventure style. Going, all right, what can I adapt if I need to? I'm not set in stone and whatever this route, we can change this on the fly. It's a little different in the Asia parks, how they do stuff with the reservations compared to what we have kind of post-COVID. It's a little different, but for the most part, we were playing on the fly and just going from there. So
now, how did it work with like passports and visas and all that kind of fun stuff?
So because we had gone to China back in 2018, we still had a 10-year visa for China. So we still able to go in as a tourist visa. They had just opened that up. And then, but normally you can do Shanghai and come in on a tourist visa that's, I forget how many hours you can technically stay there, but then it's like a transit visa. So like if you went Hong Kong to Shanghai, you could do the transit visa for, I think it's like 96 hours or I forget how many days, but then you have to continue out of the country. So you'd have to go to Tokyo. So you couldn't do like Tokyo to Shanghai back to, or go to like Beijing or something like that. So I wanted the flexibility from Shanghai. Like if the flight to Shanghai, Hong Kong filled up, I could technically go to Guangzhou or Shenzhen and be able to take the train over across the border. So it added a whole other avenue to be able to get from point A to point B, which ironically I had to do.
Wow.
Which became even crazier from that. So
So you had to throw a train ride into this craziness too?
Oh yeah, I had to go like again from managing my kids to managing the parks and trying to figure out the loads. We had finished Shanghai Disneyland and trying to finish the parks from there, and it just be like, oh, we're done. And then I looked at the loads when we were heading back to the hotel and going, oh no, the next day we're supposed to fly a Cathay Pacific flight first in the morning, and that went to negative. So it was oversold, and we're like, oh, we got to go. So we finished, we got to the hotel, we took a taxi, went to the other airport in Shanghai, and flew to Shenzhen. I bought a ticket just as a regular passenger, went on good old Priceline, and we're able to get a China Southern, I think it was, to flight to Shenzhen, and then spend the night there. And then the plan was to take the high-speed rail from there to cross the border to Hong Kong, which takes like 8 minutes. But then when we woke up, we get to the train station and the language barrier and them not be able to take Visa as a payment. They wanted cash. I go, I don't know where the ATM is. So then language barrier to take a taxi to the border to then getting the border. They're like, oh yeah, we'll take you, but we need cash. Okay. Oh, we'll drive you to an ATM. Like, okay, I've seen this in movies before. I'm going to get robbed in China.
Right.
And so with my bags, we're going to be completely from there. Again, just all the stuff racing in your mind. You get to the ATM, like, okay, how much? And he's standing right next to you as you're plugging in, going, this is going to be so bad. It'll be a story that I got robbed in China during this kind of race for charity. But no, it worked out fine. We get to the tickets across the border. We get to Hong Kong right when it was opening to Disneyland. And then in your mind going, wait, it's the conversion rate going, oh, well, yeah, that was actually a bad deal. Kind of going from there. So it kind of worked out. And then just continuing it, finished the day. And then that night, once we finished Hong Kong Disneyland, we hopped on a plane again around midnight, get to Tokyo to then start the next day, like right away. So we didn't have like hotels. We were just doing red eyes. And
that's what I was wondering that. Like, you really didn't have to spend a lot on hotels. Obviously, the airfare was
right.
So your big expense was probably like what, park tickets and food? Like,
it's more probably visits with the psychologist afterwards. It's kind of seeing that bill was kind of be racking up with my kids.
No
kind
kidding.
Of going, and that's where it's like Chipotle or anything. Like, look, guys, I know this is rough now, but once we get to, we can only do in Tokyo 1 day at one park. So we'll get a hotel from there. We have the hotel right there at the parks. Okay. And then once we have the long flight from Tokyo to LA, we'll have somewhat of a time. If we can get this right, we can when to spend that day or that couple hours of rest. And then going, all right, once we finish that, once we get to Orlando, I'll add a day where it's just like we can just have 24 hours of just sleep or whatever.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was crazy looking back going, what did I sign up myself and my family up to? But it was a fun adventure. I mean, counting down the number of Star Tours rides left and going, I do not want to do this ride ever again. It's just like, I just going to close my eyes and just like wait till it's over and then go from there. But we had fun. My daughter would take weird pictures of me in situations like just trying to rest or something, taking a break as I'm trying to eat food. So we all had our entertainment or times where we just wanted to choke each other and just be like, you're driving me crazy. But for the most part, we had fun.
That's awesome.
So let me ask this question then. Did you have like a punch list of must-do rides in each park?
I mean, we had, ironically doing this, we did rides that I've never done before or never really had focused on doing when we went to the parks before. So it kind of opened up the spectrum of like, oh, wow, this one's a little different. I try to teach my kids going, yeah, notice the differences. Yeah, Peter Pan is different in each park.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got little nuances. And then going, why is this ride almost an hour long in every park? It is the quickest ride. I do not understand it. But noticing like little nuances of, wow, they did this one different. This was an original ride versus the updated version. It's still the story is sort of the same, but technology shows it a little different. So they kind of just got to see that. We've done Tron before. We've done Pirates before in the Asia parks, stuff like that. Going back to Disney Sea is still, the Tokyo Disney Resort is still my favorite park around the world, even though I've
heard that from a few people.
Yeah,
it is by far, the best way to describe it is imagine if Disney had unlimited funds or paid to update the rides to however they wanted and how it should be. Is kind of like what Tokyo Disney Sea or in Tokyo Disney Resort is. I love Disney and I love Disney World, but it's got part of my heart. But you kind of come back after doing the Asia parks and you're going, I want that over here. That's not
Yeah.
fair.
Wow.
I can only imagine because Japanese society and culture, like there's a reason why their cars are so good and everything just spins like a top and like clockwork in their society. So I can imagine if they took that level of societal perfection in engineering and mechanics and applied it to theme park operations with the budget to do it right without budget cuts and cutting out all the cool stuff, that it would be just an amazing experience.
Oh my gosh, this is wild. I mean, literally, I think this is hard to understand because, like you said, when we're here, we go, well, I've been to Anaheim and Orlando, and you're kind of comparing Pirates and Space Mountain, but you have it to the whole new level, Brent, of trying to compare and contrast from all these countries. And
you see like different rides, you compare rides and you're like going, okay, this ride of the Thunder Mountains. And you're like, this one's better. And then you see one at the Hong Kong, which is ironically is with all the Haunted Mansions, because in China they don't believe in spirits in the ghost kind of world, when they're unlucky or whatever, they don't have a Haunted Mansion in Hong Kong. So they have a ride called Mystic Manor. And if you've seen it on YouTube, the ride throughs, seeing it in person, you're kind of seeing more of a mix of certain rides. And wow, this is with the story of this ride. And like, man, it's kind of like those that went to Shanghai and rode Tron and going, I want this ride. And then you finally come to Magic Kingdom and you're like, okay, hey, we got the cool rides. It feels like I want to bring all these rides over and experience my home. But at the same time, you're seeing how each park does that ride, and you can kind of compare notes like, that one it's all right, or realizing our Buzz Lightyear at Magic Kingdom is so below par compared to some of the others around the world that you just like,
dude,
it's just like, come on. It's like, come on, Disney, you can do this a little better.
Yeah. Now that's one thing that, okay, maybe I'm odd here, Brent. I love it when we don't have the same attractions in all the parks. Because I want a reason to go see Mystic Manor. I want a reason to go see the Beauty and the Beast ride over in Tokyo.
Which is amazing. That ride is unbelievable.
Yeah, I want a reason to go there and see something that I can't get here.
Right.
So I'm like, the whole Batu East, Batu West, and they're identical. I'm like, you guys spent $10 billion and you built the same exact stinking thing. You couldn't even have mixed it up so I could have had a reason to go to LA?
Oh, I agree. There's certain aspects where I'm going, oh, Thunder Mountain, which we got our first evac. My kids thought it was the coolest thing, get evac'd on Thunder Mountain in Anaheim. And so they're kind of like, wow, this is cool. I'm like, it's kind of different. But each ride has got its own personality, you see, like whether the Haunted Mansions, my daughter is kind of like, wow, it's weird to ride these rides that you don't understand the language on. I mean, from Phantom Manor, you kind of have to learn the story. Even afterwards, like, okay, let's look up Wikipedia, trying to figure out the storyline. Like, oh, okay, that makes more sense. Or the Thunder Mountain in Paris is because it's on what would be Tom Sawyer's Island, and it goes through. My kids were like, this is amazing. I want this, the thrill of this Thunder Mountain to the
I've heard
US.
that's the best one.
The atmosphere is amazing. And then being able to go to a Disney park when it's snowing. Now that's an ultimate goal that I want to be able to go back to Paris when the weather's kind of maybe snowing, or be like, oh, this is kind of cool.
Yeah,
I'm riding these rides. This is different.
The Detroiter in me is like, no. Had enough of that. So,
which is funny. It's like I grew up in Detroit, so it's kind of like I don't miss the seasons. I mean, I miss the seasons a little bit, but scraping my car window, I'm like, I'm good. That's why I moved to Orlando.
No, now you talk hoodie weather in a Disney park, like we had Wednesday night for the brand new Luminous or whatever the new show at Epcot was. And I made the mistake of going in a t-shirt and had to buy a sweatshirt. That's ideal park weather. Okay?
Oh, yeah. And then it's like, you don't have that humid crowd of anger where it's like, it's so hot. And they're just like, you watch, as a cast member, I got to see on Splash Mountain on the summer, July 4th, where, why did you have this idea of coming to Disney World when it's like the humidity and 4-hour waits and watching families implode in front of you? And kind of as a cast member, kind of getting like, oh, this is my secondary entertainment. So
yeah, glutton for punishment. Here we are.
But it's like, just seeing the weather of October was different. But to go through it, we ironically hit Hong Kong a couple days before a typhoon was supposed to hit. So the humidity was supposed to drop. So you're like, oh, this is just like Florida waiting for a hurricane. But everything kind of, for the most part, worked perfectly, which was kind of surprising. But at the same time, I mean, part of me wants to do it again. I say I'm glutton for punishment. I even asked my kids, going, all right, would you want to be up for it again? And my son's like, okay. My daughter's like, no, I'm good. So although it might change, you never know. But for the most part, missing out on all the rides because of little nuances that I should have learned or should have planned for. Some I couldn't because of the Rugby World Cup in Paris. Others in Tokyo, I wish I brought different inserts because after the whole day and just my body was kind of wearing down. And even comparing notes afterwards from Nathan, he's like, oh yeah, he got hurt or hurt himself on a ride in Paris and had to he felt like he was limping the whole way. And I'm like, oh yeah, no. He jokingly thinking, oh, that's not going to happen to me. Of Tokyo, as we're kind of halfway, going, my body does not like me at this point. My feet are killing me. Feet. And then I'm just like, I'm tired. I just want to sleep. And then I'm like, okay, I'm sleeping on now an economy seat for 12, 13 hours going, why did I sign myself up for this? But we had shirts in every park that had kind of hashtags that we kind of used as kind of a fun little thing. And we had some people in every park was asking us about what are we doing? Or is this real? 12 parks in 12 days? I'm like, yeah, it's. And then they kind of shook their head going, you have lost your mind. To others going, man, they cheered us on or they saw us in parks. One person saw us on the canoes in California, and then they saw us again in Magic Kingdom, and they kind of like, oh, they waved at us. I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool. So it kind of gave a little motivation as we went through it. So yeah, it was a fun adventure.
Yeah, it's a lot. Wow.
All I know, Brent, is if your kids don't want to do this with you again, let me know. I will gladly go.
Chad will definitely go
hopping with Brent Hopper.
So many people along the way
going,
going, can you adopt me? I want to be a
join the
fun. I mean, yeah, it was along the way is just talking to people. And that's the one thing that was kind of fun on the whole thing. I wish in the grand scheme of things, I could have been able to raise more money to get more eyeballs on what I was doing. Like, this is an awesome organization to be able to do it for. And then getting them to cheerlead me on, it was awesome. But it was cool to, as we were going through it, people were donating or cheering me on just for like, oh, well, if you do this ride or do this many, I'll map this much or I'll donate this much. You're kind of like, oh, yes, this is a fun way to do it. It's a fun community. Still, there are times where I don't know how people did every ride, every park in Disney World. As we're going and going, oh, yeah, it seems very possible. And as we're doing it, going, what was I thinking? I don't know how people did this. If you're doing it by yourself, there is that part where it makes it a little easier. When you're doing it with others, especially family members or kids, you kind of be like, you are holding me down. You're driving me crazy. Just it made a challenge for myself, but also it's a fun adventure with my kids. They're at an age that I realize I'm not going to get these crazy adventures often as they grow up and they get older. And one of my career allows me to do these crazy family adventures with my kids. And now we have twins, 3-year-old twins who are in right now as recording this. We're in Helsinki, Finland, getting a real experience for Santa, being away and kids. They don't see snow much. But I got some fun times with my kids, even though there was some times where they were fighting with each other. But, hopefully they'll be able to look back and going, yeah, that was one of Dad's craziest adventures. But I had a fun time.
Yeah, I think this summer, Brent, I did 16 theme parks between LA and Orlando and then Tampa.
Yep.
With my son. And we had the time of our life, right?
Yep.
But we had like a month to do it in the house here in Orlando to home base out of. And so we really only had to just go to LA to pick up Universal Hollywood, Disneyland, and California Adventure. We could have stayed in LA longer and did a few more, but this was a last minute idea for me and I'm having to pay for it all out of pocket. So
it did. Oops. Well, even after my daughter realized that there's Halloween Horror Nights in Singapore and in Osaka, and she's like, oh, I want to do those around the world. And I'm like, oh my God, what have I created?
No.
And then you're kind of thinking to myself going, huh. I mean,
Well, maybe that ain't so crazy after all.
going, we could do both of them again.
Chad will go for that.
Yeah, it's like it's opening things up. You're seeing things outside of the bubble of doing just the U.S. parks. You're seeing, as weird as it sounds, how you could say how imperialistic Disney is by forcing Disney culture on all these around the world. It's fun too, but if you go around and see these, how each country has put their spin on it, whether it's in Paris, you see in Tokyo, where the flavored popcorns, it's the weirdest things, and then you try it and you're like, not too bad. Or the honey and chocolate popcorn, or there was a curry and shrimp, and you're like, I don't know if that sounds good. But then as you're going around the parks, you're like, that's a unique smell. That's bad. It's kind of different foods you get to try that to introduce crazy concoctions that my kids, I don't know if they would touch at all. And then try adding a Disney theme to it. Like, oh, my kids tried something different. I mean, we say tried, but it's
I'm drawing the line at anchovy Dole Whip. Okay, like ain't happening, brother.
Awful. And you didn't do any sit-down restaurants, right? You kind of all did. I want to call it quick service.
Yeah, there was mostly
for 12 days. Or would you say?
Yeah, it was mostly quick service. Did the ones that were kind of fancier quick service that were kind of in Hong Kong. But again, if it had chicken nuggets, my kids were happy. So it was kind of the easy way to go, and trying to, as we're on this time adventure and going, my kids are bothering me like, I'm hungry.
So did you get like a castle shot or some unique photo in each of the parks?
Yeah, we did it, tried to get it for every entry. We took a picture together because of the challenge of, like, again, if someone's not familiar, is that doing every ride, you had to take a picture of yourself doing the ride all the time. So my daughter became the one of, okay, Dad, take the picture. I'm doing this as a fun adventure with my family. So you kind of like have to check yourself out. Like, look, does it really matter? Yeah, in the grand schemes, I can't say I did every ride, every park. I did it every ride, every park in Disneyland Paris. We didn't finish Studios. We did everything in Hong Kong. We did everything in Shanghai. We did everything in Disney Sea. We missed out on, I think, 6 rides in Tokyo Disneyland. We did everything in all the California parks. We did everything at Disney. We ironically didn't. Ironically, it was weird. We started in Paris, and ironically, the last ride was Ratatouille at Epcot. And we're like, oh, wow, we got a picture of us as a family before we started the day before at the Eiffel Tower. And we finished it in front of the Eiffel Tower at France Pavilion. So we kind of laughed at that and how it just worked out. There are times where it's like, all right, we could have added more. We could have pressured it. But there was more like, let's just, look, we're going to finish this under 12 days. And then we figured out, like, okay, that recharged things a little bit. We just have 4 parks and we're done. We've gone around the world, and then so let's finish it off, and then just push.
And we know these 4 parks.
Yeah, these 4 parks.
And the funny thing is doing it home, the ways that people they move and how they go and what's the kind of plan of attacks. But then you're kind of like, okay, I got to audible this one. Ratatouille keeps on closing on us over and over again. Let's just finish everything on day 1. Magic Kingdom. Let's just knock everything, out that we can. Let's get all the big rides out so that we can come back and do like Dumbo. We know that's going to be a short one, or we know I've seen the weathercast in Florida in October. You never know when it's going to get rained out. And then there's times where being able to sit down on a long ride where I could take my shoes off on the ride, and I apologize to all the people around me at that point. But for the most part, it was. You're just kind of like, I just need a break. My feet are killing me. But we had fun time. So
making memories. That's what it's all about.
And then realizing it's like.
Well, all I can tell you, Brent, is if there's a 2.0 in the future, I'm in. And even if it's just being a promotional partner and contacting every YouTuber, every influencer, every podcaster that I know to come back in and amplify your story and get you some coverage and raise some funds for Give Kids the World, I'm in.
I would love to see.
If I got to train for 6 months and lose weight to become your battle buddy through this, I'm still in.
I'll settle for Paris. I'm easy. I'll just go to.
I had to drain a ton of Bonvoy points to get through each moment. I had the prices for the parks I had to pay just like anyone else. Annual passes, even though we had it for a long time, COVID, we decided to stop for a little bit. And then we're like, you know what? For price with our kids that are small, there was always something about going to Disney like for a couple hours and ride a couple rides. It's kind of fun to see my 3-year-old twins experience that for the first time. Like, it's fun to do. There's always something about Disney that I experienced as a cast member, as a guest that I've gone as an AP, that there is always something that, even though it's a love-hate relationship sometimes with Disney, there's always something to be that escapism, to be able to be able to do something, whether it's Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Paris, Shanghai, Tokyo, whatever. There's still that escapism of the craziness, the hustle and bustle of what adults that we have as jobs or stresses. There is always that escapism at Disney where, as my kids would say, that I'm embarrassing them, where I'm dancing along down Main Street, or I'm wearing an alien hat that I got at Tokyo. I mean, kind of, they're seeing a 250-pound plus 45-year-old acting like a kid. They think it's embarrassing, which I'm also egging them on a little bit because it's embarrassing to them. I'm kind of having a little bit more extra fun on that way. But it's that escapism that Disney that I love doing.
Yes. Wow. I love your energy.
It's sometimes crazy. Like I said, I'm in Helsinki, Finland, doing a trip to see Santa that I could have done at the mall in Orlando. But I'm like, you know what?
Oh, trust me, Brent. Yeah, you're talking our language here. And I've just now started getting into the whole point and mile game. And I know you mentioned some Bonvoy points, which are the Marriott loyalty program currency. But yeah, I'm looking to hit all of the international parks. I just don't know when I can do them, but I will do them on point and miles. I can guarantee you that I will not be paying for hotel rooms, and I will not be paying for flights, but I will be paying the taxes just like you did, but I'll be cashing in some points.
Well, and there's certain places that I learned that going, like when we stayed in Shanghai, the Courtyard Marriott right there at the park, seeing the price of, like, as much as I'd love to stay at the Disney parks and some of the hotels, they're amazing. But there's the Courtyard Marriott is like, that's a Disney kind of esque hotel, which we paid for. It was $100 a night. And we laughed. We got upgraded to a kid's room of 2 queen size beds. Then it had a little kid's tent that my daughter would go, oh, here's your tent you're living in for the next couple nights. But then it had one of the most amazing breakfast buffets that I've ever seen, going, this is not liquid eggs or fake eggs for breakfast. These are, I'm having dim sum, or I'm having pot stickers or whatever, going, the dragon fruit, this is amazing. It's a great theming for the hotel, but there's times where it's like, I don't know if I really want to stay at the Disney hotels. The beds in Paris one are like rocks, or we stayed at the Hong Kong Adventures Hotel, which is unbelievable, but the beds are going, I think the floor is softer, and you're kind of like, I don't know if I really want to. And we didn't stay there on this time, but we'd stay there before, and going, it was great. But you kind of learn a little nuances going, we could stay at a different off-brand Disney hotel, whether it's Marriott, Hilton, or whatever, and kind of learn where to stay that work gets the best bang for your buck. But then learning in Europe, where the occupancy rate for a hotel room is like 2, and it's like 2 twin-size beds, you're like, well, this isn't going to work for 3 people.
Yeah, for
it's
3
like
people.
I might have to sneak someone in, or we're snuggling in the queen size bed a little bit, or someone's taking a couch, or, I mean, it was stuff like that it's what you take for granted in the US, going to the various hotels, the occupancy rate is normal, bigger, whereas in Europe or Asia, it might be 2, 3, and you're like, okay, I got to change things up.
Yeah, that's the fun part of learning cultures and learning how we do things differently here in the US than the rest of the world does. And what that does is it creates a broader horizon for your kids and for yourself as well, to learn that, hey, just the way I'm used to seeing the world isn't the way the rest of the world sees the world.
It's, I mean, even just the little things of not portraying as around the world as the fat, dumb, and happy American. It's you see other barriers come down where as weird as it sounds, Disney sort of helps that a little bit, where many cast members speak English around the world, as people are kind of afraid, thinking, I'm going to be that tourist. But everyone's so friendly. They might not understand, but there's someone around that does this understand English. There's the confusion, or kind of going to all these other parks.
Right.
So
if you had to give a list of pointers, just like quick one-hitter tips that you'd give to somebody who is crazy enough to start saying, Brent did this, somebody else did this, I think I'm going to try it, what would be some of your top tips here?
The first one would be, have the most patience you can possibly have. Things do go wrong. Sometimes they go right, but prepare for the bad, crazy moments. One is to have fun with it. That's the main thing. It's
Mhm.
This is an
it's an
adventure.
adventure.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. It's like
Life is short.
it's life short. Have fun with it. Go from there. But for the main part is that find resources that you didn't expect. I mean, yeah, the 12 days, 12 parks is a crazy adventure. Not everyone's going to be up for it, but do it maybe like in a month. Do it like what we did with my kids who were younger. We wanted to explore Asia, and we used Disney as a means for my kids to introduce, have that satisfaction or that able to bring home what they're used to at Disney parks, and then be like, all right, we're going to explore Japan for a week, but we're going to use Disney as a way to kind of break it up. Where it's like, oh, I can't wait to go to this park and do that. Yeah, it's a fun way to kind of do stuff. And as crazy as my adventure is to many people, it might spark someone to going, that's crazy, but maybe I could do it too. So it's
yeah. Or maybe we'll actually just inspire a family who's listening to us to venture outside the U.S. And
many people ask going,
based on what I know, if somebody was listening to this and they were like, I want to dip my toes in an international park water, I've been to Disneyland Paris, and you'll have, I think, the easiest time there. And then probably what?
Tokyo is like said, if you could pick any park, Tokyo is the best Disney park around the world. The resort of what you can get there, of what the immersiveness of everybody is, of what, again, is what people say is like, oh, if Walt was still alive. Okay, I get it. But Disney and Tokyo, they take it to a level where the guests are literally dancing. If you ever see video of the Baymax ride, the cast members are having just as much fun when they push the button for start and they're dancing to the background music as the guests are. They're interactive. They're waving at you on every, they're kind of like thanking you on every time you ride a ride. And like, it's so weird, yet you kind of get into it. And you're like, oh, this is kind of fun. I mean, whether it's being able to ride Splash Mountain that no one else will be able to ride again in the U.S. parks, it's still there. And the queue is unbelievable. And you're like, wow, this is so cool.
Yeah.
But being able to, if you have the opportunity to explore outside the U.S. Disney parks, Tokyo by far is, people will say it. And then once you do it, you're like, oh yeah, I get it. This is unbelievable. And the pictures, the videos you see are just like, yeah, it's true.
So do you think that the Tokyo park is more accommodating to an American than Paris would be?
So it's more accommodating, but whether language barriers, it might be easier in France. But in Tokyo, I've had supervisors that will come up to me. They saw me, what my adventure was. They're going, yeah, we close the queue. Like, yeah, we can get you on. I want to do it as a favor, because like, all right, Soren, you see this and going, it is so immersive. It's not a line. It's more of the line is the adventure to the ride.
Amazing. This is a great interview. I'm so excited about all this. So thank you so much, Brent. This is awesome.
I love sharing it. That's the one thing. It's like going, I'm not an influencer. I'm just someone that loves Disney. Disney's been a part of my life from the beginning, to my marriage, to my wife, and to my kids, and kind of introduce it to. I'm not trying to clout. I'm not trying to.
No.
No. But I'm saying like
that you're a geek like us, dude. Okay, like
I'm saying, like, through
you're an adult
process.
Disney nut like the rest of us that are listening to this show, right? You're one of us, which is why we wanted to interview you.
Right. But I'm saying like through the process, I'm not as some of the influencers. I love seeing what their content. I wasn't trying to do that and trying to understand people. Like, I'm not. There isn't a secondary motivation. I'm not trying to become all these clicks and views and whatever, which there's nothing wrong with that, because it does open up of ways to see stuff. But it's like, it was a fun adventure. I am happy to anyone that wants to reach out through.
Yeah, that's a great question, Brent. How can somebody follow up with you or follow you on social media after this if they want to come in and like scroll through the history and see some of your photos?
Yeah, it's like, well, I mean, Instagram, I've got the Flying Rabbit 88. I mean, it's kind of the play on my last name. Or on X or Twitter, whatever you call it, it's like hopping around the world. So it's those are the two things. Or just through you guys, if you want to ever funnel any questions that you might have, I'm happy to give tips I learned or things to don't do, or kind of pitfalls going, okay, watch out. Certain days in Japan, it can be a nightmare. Watch out for the holidays. It's stuff like that I learned. But at the same time, like going, the prices in Hong Kong is crazy. You're like, wow, this is great. Like, how is this so much cheaper It's like a meal for 4 at a Magic Kingdom would be more than the price of entrance for like 3 people into Hong Kong Disneyland. So it's kind of stuff like that.
Brent, Roxanne, thank you guys for joining us on today's show. And thank you for sharing your story with us. I hope that you've inspired some people to go out there and take some international travels.
Thank you for having me. And the main thing is just explore the world. Enjoy. There's a lot of fun stuff out there. Maybe it's not just all Disney. Sometimes, yeah, you can go see Universal Park here or there as well. But there's fun stuff to have Disney be your gateway to exploring the world that's out there. It's a fun adventure and life's short. Just go explore.
Roxanne, any final thoughts?
Thank you. And I love your energy and enthusiasm. And you're an honorary member of the My DVC Points because you are definitely one of us for sure.
It's like, I'll trade DVC points for airline buddy passes.
Yeah,
Deal.
there we go. Deal. Sold. We'll have people take you up on that. So,
I love it.
anyways, that puts another episode in the books. I want to do a huge shout out of thanks to our sponsors over at World of DVC, including DVC Rental Store, DVC Resale Market, and Monera Financial. Thank you guys for tuning in to today's show. Thanks, Roxanne, and thanks, Brent, for coming back in and sharing your awesome story with us. And as always, hopefully you learned something in today's show that'll help you go out there and plan something magical for your family. Or maybe, just maybe, we had the luck of inspiring you to come back in and venture outside the U.S. parks and go see the world. Go see some stuff with your kids. Go travel, go see Disney, and as Brent was saying, learn about as much culture as you possibly can. That's the number one thing you can do to broaden the horizons of your kids and help them become better, productive members of society. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, please watch your head and step as you exit, and take small children by the hand.
Aw, chill up, Dad. You know I'll come back. With DVC.
My DVC Points is an unofficial Disney-inspired podcast created by fans of Disney Vacation Club. The thoughts expressed in this podcast are personal opinions and personal experiences. My DVC Points is not affiliated with Disney Vacation Club, the Walt Disney Companies, or any subsidiaries. We encourage listeners to contact their DVC guide or member services for official DVC policies.